Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lang. Thank you to those who came out to San Francisco and Sacramento this past weekend. It was a really great way to finish out shows for the end of the year. And honestly, I wouldn't have had it a different way. So thanks, guys. So I have a new EP out. It is called Bleed Together. It came out Wednesday, the 13th of December. It is available in all of the fine retailers online, or not so fine, but it's available in almost all of them. So go give it a listen. If you go to my website, mattlang.net, I actually wrote up a blog entry about the meaning behind the songs on Bleed Together. It's a really important work to me. I'm really proud of it. I spent a long time on it. And I also think it's honestly some of my best stuff, if not the best stuff I've done as of this point. So go give it a listen. Let me know what you think if you feel up to doing that. And just go hear it. This week on the show, I have composer Gareth Coker. He is a British composer living in LA. He's responsible for the music behind games such as Ori and the Blind Forest, as well as Minecraft, and a number of others. So we talked a lot about how he got into the game business, what he's doing now, his thought process behind a lot of recording. He gets to record at Abbey Road, which is really cool. So it's a good chat. He's a nice guy. Here's Gareth.
I want to keep my EU citizenship, and I think they're going to allow citizens to opt in or opt out. And if they do that, I'll be very happy.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I thought you'd be locked into being British, so to speak.
No, I mean, that's part of the negotiation is the freedom of movement, because that's like one of the biggest losses. If you have just a British passport without the EU thing on it, then, for example, if you're a student, you can't be like, okay, mum, dad, I'm going to go to Germany for 3 months and study, which you can just do
right
like
now,
that
in a heartbeat.
with no visa.
Right.
You don't need anything. You can just leave. And if I wanted to, tomorrow, I could just go to any city in the EU and I could start a business as long as I register with the local authority. That's it. No paperwork, no visa, no nothing. I could pack up here and go to the south of Italy, probably pay like a tenth of my living costs right now, and eat pizza and pasta for the rest of my life and have a studio. Be in the middle of nowhere, but I'd have no paperwork requirements or minimal paperwork requirements. Whereas if you wanted to do that, good, yeah.
I've looked into it.
Right.
I have. I looked into it for France.
Right.
And you have to prove that you have so much money just for them to even think about it, because they don't want you siphoning off any of their socialized systems. And
no questions asked if you're a EU citizen.
Right.
So that has its own problems for sure, but like there's the cultural benefits of being able to just go to any country with great ease. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was traveling abroad freely, like, you know, when I was 15 and 16, you can just get on the train and go to France. Like it's not happening here, partly because of the location of America, but
sure.
It's just one of those things, you know, foreign countries, a myriad of foreign countries are on your doorstep.
Well, it's amazing too, because as an American, you don't realize, certainly when you're growing up, unless you have the fortune of traveling a lot as a kid, which most kids do not.
Right.
So you don't realize that America is almost the size of all of Europe.
Yep.
Except there are how many countries in Europe?
Oh, it's dozens.
30 or 40?
40, yeah.
You know, it's a lot. In America, we have 50-something states, but and the irony of that is I've definitely been in states where I feel way more foreign there than I have when I've been abroad.
Yep.
And that is a whole different discussion.
Oh yeah, I mean, I record in Nashville a lot, and it's like it's a completely different world. I love it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because you're in Nashville and it's pretty liberal, and then you drive 30-40 minutes any direction.
You're in the South,
and you're really in the South. Yeah.
Where do you record?
I record at Ocean Way Studios. That's the biggest room that they've got there.
Right.
That room, it can hold 70 musicians, but it's more like 50 to 60 comfortably.
Right.
And if you're doing brass in there, you kind of need to take all the other instruments out so the brass have room.
Right.
But yeah, no, I've been recording there since 2014.
That's awesome.
Various projects. So I've recorded elsewhere too, but Nashville was like my first big recording.
That's awesome.
So partly like because of budget reasons, like Nashville's a very, very competitive place to record right now.
Yep.
LA is very expensive.
Right.
And they don't have good deals with, they do have good deals with the video game companies. And I think the union have sorted that out yet, but it's still quite expensive.
Yeah.
And the other options in America are Seattle.
I've done that one.
Seattle and Nashville. And that's kind of it with the options. Then you're looking at Eastern Europe, but then you've got to deal with travel and quality, possibly. Mm-hmm. And then there's England, which right now actually is quite cheap to record in England compared to what it usually is because the pound is so pathetic.
Right, of course.
So it's probably like 25 to 30% cheaper to record now in England than it has ever been.
Oh, I know, because I get royalty statements from British record labels, and they're such a bummer now.
Right, and if anyone's on BMI, but being paid in England, it's probably fantastic because the dollar's obviously really strong compared to the pound. It comes and goes. It's those are kind of the options. There are a couple of new options in Europe that are interesting. Berlin has a new scoring stage at Teldex, and the newest one is the Synchron stage in Vienna, which just looks like it's a really, really, really old concert hall. But the owners of Vienna Symphonic Library, the sample company, they purchased the building.
Okay.
I think they invested like $10 million into it.
Wow.
So you got this really old building with an amazing acoustic.
Yeah.
And then they've filled it to the brim with 21st century technology. Mm-hmm. And they've also changed the studio so it's like a room within a room within a room. So there's like double isolation. So there's nothing
That's
is
nice.
Getting in. But it has the characteristics of a church. I do believe that the measurements of the room are bigger than Abbey Road Studio One.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But it has a shorter reverb.
Okay.
So you get a really clean sound. But a big sound. So that's like kind of on my bucket list now. I want to try it out.
I think, do you know Hybrid?
Yeah, of course.
I think they might have, they work with Prague a lot. I know that, but I think
they've done Prague, they've done Moscow.
They were doing some stuff in Vienna.
Well, probably for the fifth album.
Yeah.
Which we're all well, at least Hybrid fans are all waiting for.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Hybrid fan.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. I get depressed whenever I listen to them because their production is. I don't know how they get their sound to be so big and so clean. Obviously, it's partly in the arrangements, but it's very humbling listening to their work.
I adore them. Yeah. I really do. I found them to be hugely influential and inspirational, and on top of that, just really sweet people.
I've never met them, but they seem like really sweet people. So I mean, it's just there's such a small group, and it just seems like a couple of guys, and now the girl.
Now it's just Mike and Charlotte.
Oh right, because
Chris is gone.
That's right.
Yeah,
but still, it's like for such a small group to put the quality out that they have done over their careers. And it's really it's a period of 20 years basically.
Almost, just about.
And yes, this is technically only the fifth album, but if you include all the film score work they've done, which is just like a lifetime of work.
Yeah, and they're doing at least 2 a year right now.
And that's not even including the sound design I know that they do for other composers.
Yeah.
So I think they've worked a lot with Harry Gregson Williams. And
yes.
Yes, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I know. They're doing good. Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, of course. I mean, they were in the UK. Of course, everyone would know of them.
Well, I mean, actually, I didn't really discover Hybrid probably until like my second year of music school.
Okay.
I was late to the party, and I was really just like learning about music anyway. I applied to music school not knowing how to write for the orchestra, not being a very good arranger. Like my portfolio, you're required to submit a portfolio of your compositions.
Right.
All I had was just a bunch of piano tracks and my attempt at writing a string quartet, but I didn't even know like anything about strings.
Was your intention to be a composer?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the intention.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I don't have anything.
Right.
But I got accepted, and the reason they accepted me is because, well, you can't arrange, you can't write for the orchestra, your production's all over the place, bunch of other put downs, but then they said, but you can write a melody, and that's the hardest thing for us to teach. So you're in, basically.
Nice.
That was basically what got me in.
Right.
So, and they were right. Like the rest of the stuff you can learn. I mean, obviously you can kind of learn how to write a melody, but it is mostly a feel thing.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
So I was starting to learn about production, and I don't even remember how I stumbled onto hybrid, but I'd always been into electronic music. The bands that were big when I was into electronic music were The Prodigy.
Yeah, sure.
And, that was about the time iTunes was coming out, or at least I felt like it was.
Like 2002?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then you've got the related albums and stuff like that. So once you start clicking through related albums, you find all sorts of gems. And it's obviously much better now than it used to be. But,
sure.
And Google was alive and kicking then, albums that sound similar.
Totally.
I mean, I know hybrid does not sound similar, but they come under bands you may like.
Right. Well,
because some of the instrumentals in Fat of the Land are unbelievable. So,
they are, yeah. I love that. That was one of the first CDs I probably, because that came out, 95, something like that?
I mean, that album does not have a weak track on it.
No.
From there, I started to discover electronic music, and I feel like electronic music techniques have a very, very, very big place in the current world of film and game scoring. Because it's all it's all pun hybrid now.
I know. Yeah.
I'm sure that joke's been made a few times, but rare is the score nowadays that doesn't have some kind of synthetic element to it.
Oh, yeah.
We've still got John Williams who'll record it all in the room with all the players at the same time. Michael Giacchino still does that, and Alexandre Desplat, and that's kind of it.
Right.
There probably are a bunch of other European composers doing it, but like at the certainly on the American side of things, I think that's really like what we're left with at the moment. I think it's good. Like I'm not sure who decided that the orchestra is the premier way to score a film or a game.
Probably just traditionalism.
It is traditionalism, but I think we are set on this rule. Like we must have a string group, and it must have 16 violins, violin ones, 14 violin twos, and it must have 12 violas, and it must have 10 cellos, it must have 8.
Yes and no. I mean, I think
I recently there has been like a development like where the ensembles are getting a bit more wild.
But even there are, I mean, like look at like Mick Gordon's work.
Right.
That is very unorchestral. And then on the film side of it, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
That's the better example. But like, what else was Mick going to do for Doom? I know he said he was not. He was. The developers were like, "Yeah, we don't want an industrial heavy rock score," and that's exactly what they got.
Yeah,
because it fit the game. But like, there are examples for sure. And Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor are like constantly doing great work. But like, I think if we remove those outliers and think about like still scores that are using the orchestra, and I'm guilty of this too.
Yeah,
it's like. But who decided that like that there's a correct orchestral lineup?
Right.
I don't know why I'm making hand gestures because we're on a podcast.
That's okay. It helps you talk. I do it all the time too. I'm very gestural. I think it's just ultimately the producers of the games.
Right.
They end up wanting to hear that because that's safe to them. They know that.
That's true.
That is the tradition of what a score is supposed to sound like.
Yep.
And now that games suddenly actually have budgets for scores.
Right.
Now, of course, in a way, I feel like it's almost playing catch up.
Yep.
Because games traditionally, they didn't have budgets like films did. And now they're actually getting a lot closer to that.
Yep.
And consequently, I think, I mean, again, video game directors, you don't have really film directors going down to games yet.
No.
You do have film composers jumping over to games a lot.
Yep.
But I still think a lot of it is, and I'm spitballing here, so I could be totally off the mark. But potentially now you have a video game director and he feels suddenly he just hit it. He is the director and he has access to an orchestra. And this is something he always looked up to as when he was coming up or whatever. Why wouldn't he do it now that he has the chance to? So that only perpetuates kind of the pattern.
That I can definitely understand because in many cases, I think there have been video game directors that have gone out and hired an orchestra when it's not even appropriate for the game that they're working on. It's funny because like a lot of, there are always these behind the scenes videos and it's like, we got this really massive orchestra and it's not quite matching what I'm seeing on screen.
Yep.
Like synergy between audio and visuals is important in any medium, but like particularly in games because of the need for immersion.
Right.
You need to keep your player engaged, and that's like one day I might do a PhD on like what goes on in the brain when people are playing games, but I'm not ready to do it now. But so much of it is psychological and how you keep people engaged.
Sure.
I'll give an example. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me personally on Ori and the Blind Forest. One day, the programmer just casually dropped a message into Skype. He was like, "Hey guys, there's no loading screens anymore." And before we'd have, you complete like part of the game, and then you'd get to the edge, and then you transition into the next area, and you'd have to wait like just a couple of seconds for and there'd be a black screen that would fade in, and then a black screen that would fade out, and you see the new area.
Right.
And then they were like, "Nah, no more loading screens. Everything is completely seamless, and you'll never see a loading screen again after you fire up the game." And why is that important? So what it does for me is it means, first of all, it's kind of like blinking. When you blink, you're breaking contact with someone just for a brief moment. And in a game, that blink, if it's a loading screen, can usually be 1 or 2 seconds, and that's enough time for you to think about something else.
Right.
If you don't have that blink, you're not thinking about something else.
Sure.
Now, when you apply that to music, it means the music can also be continuous, and that keeps the player engaged in the world. And also with the sound effects. So sound effects for Ori, they kind of took a micro approach, like all of the very tactile sounds, and music kind of took a macro approach. I hope I'm getting that the right way around.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so combined, the two like help keep the player as immersed as possible. Then you have no loading screens. There's no break.
Right.
So if you want to stop, you have to willingly press start on the controller to pause the game.
Right.
Otherwise, the game's just going to keep going. It's going to keep trucking along, and you're not going to want to press pause. And I think the first time I noticed this was when we invited a couple of people over who were like, "Oh, I don't like platformers. I don't want to play this game." And whatever. And we just like, "Shut up, sit down, try it."
Right. Right.
And so we just gave them the controller and just left them. We did that 3 times, and every single time, no one stopped playing. Like the minimum time played was 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were like, "What time is it?" And I was like, "Oh, you've been playing for like 3 hours." They're like, "What?" Because if you're immersed,
right.
you don't even notice.
You're kind of hypnized by the whole experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, it relies on every department, animation, gameplay. Like it all has to be engaging. But that's like one example. And I when I saw that, I was like, wow, we've really got something right here.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do continuous music for 3 hours with people not finding it repetitive as well.
Well, that's a good question too, because I mean, if you have your loading screen, your blink, so to speak,
yes,
that gives you a
reset.
You know, you can start from wherever you want after that. If there is no reset, it's very restrictive.
So here's the funny thing. Like, I'm a proponent of interactive music, like where music changes on the fly as you're playing, where appropriate. And one thing I found is, because there's all these systems that are in games to like make music like so it's not the same every time you play it. Yeah. And the music changes while you're playing. Well, you can do that like that in any game, but like, is it always appropriate? And so when you're transitioning from one area of the environment in Ori to another, let's say you're transitioning from the swamp, which is outside, to the moon grotto, which is a cave. How do we transition? Right. We simply just fade out and fade in. Yeah. It's the most rudimentary, basic. It's not smooth. It's not smooth in the fact that it's like, you don't get like a thing to cover up the transition. It's
even if you're like even key changes and everything like that.
Key changes. Yeah. I think actually that's one of the worst ones, because it's like C minor to A minor. So you've got the E flat crossing into the E. And no one cares. Right. No one notices as long as the fade out isn't like completely abrupt.
You know what's funny about that? Because I actually experienced that when I do DJing.
Right.
Because the way I DJ is very melodic. Yeah. As far as I don't play the most melodic tracks, but the way I actually even have all my tracks organized, like in Tractor, it's all by key.
Right.
So I'm just basically looking at,
Yeah. Normally you're doing related keys, right?
Yeah, related keys for the most part. But sometimes it's really fun to play a tritone.
Right.
Because if, just to really make that transition more jarring.
Right.
So, that gives you a different kind of power in a way. But even so, if when I go and on the occasions I see other DJs who are not musically inclined or not, that's derogatory, but musically trained, traditionally trained. Yes, you will get the minor third transitions on top of each other, and it's a little, sometimes it's effective, but when you have tracks that are actually just more harmonically complex, of course it's really jarring, but most people in a crowd, I mean, I would say
they're already into it.
They'll never know.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, like probably a handful of musicians notice these fades out, but fade ins and fade outs, but like there's nothing really overlapping.
Right.
And, it's not like the music completely dies because you've still got the ambience, and the ambience is a big part of that. And you've still got the actual sounds that are taking place because you're always moving, which means you're hearing footsteps constantly.
Yeah.
Goodness knows how many footsteps our sound designer recorded, because they got light and heavy footsteps and then like 6 different surfaces, I think, as well.
Right.
So you're not really, like, your ear is just adjusting to that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it can be tricky to keep. It can be restrictive, but I think, and I've seen this in other games as well. I just don't think players, if you're doing a good job with the immersion on every other level, like with the visuals and the animation, the gameplay, the sound, players just aren't going to notice.
Right.
A lot of investment gets put into music systems, and sometimes I'm not sure it's always necessary. I feel music systems can be restrictive because if you're using a music system, you've got to write in a certain way that can accommodate that music system. Whereas all we did in Ori and the Blind Forest was basically write 3 to 4 minute tracks that I hoped sounded good.
Right.
And the way they were structured to avoid repetition was, an A section would be a melody, and the B section would not have melody. It would just be a texture development.
Sure.
And then we'd have A2, and it would be a repeat of the melody in a different form.
Right.
And there's enough time in 3 to 4 minutes to do 3 presentations of a tune and 3 non-melodic developments. And then at that point, it's not going to feel repetitive.
Right. Right. And then you can cue that from any part. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is like, you're rarely in the same area for longer than 10 to 15 minutes unless you're stuck.
Right.
And if you're getting stuck in Ori, it's usually a problem with the design rather than your ability. Like,
okay.
Most of our puzzles, like we want the player to not feel like an idiot, basically.
Right.
We've got finding the balance between like making it accessible and like
making it fun.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't want to make it like too crazy hard because that causes people to turn the game off and get frustrated.
Sure. That game came out when?
March 2015, and then the definitive edition came out in 2016, which we did a little expansion on the original game.
Okay. How'd you get involved in that?
So this is one of my favorite stories to tell. I got Ori because I answered a random email.
No kidding.
So when I graduated, I went to the University of Southern California, did their 1-year film scoring program.
Okay.
And about around that time, I was, as we all are, looking for job prospects.
Sure.
There's no money happening when you graduate school and work in entertainment, unless you're very lucky.
Yeah, usually for a number of years after that, too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I put my music on a bunch of different websites, a bunch of different gaming websites. One of them was called moddb.com. Mm-hmm. And ModDB is a website where game developers, both professional and amateur, they just make free add-ons for games that they like. So, for example, they might be like Skyrim, the Star Wars mod.
Right. Just like Counter-Strike was a mod for Half-Life.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So that ModDB is a database of all of those creations, and there's a lot of game developers hanging out there. I was like, this seems like a good place to put my music and make a profile and try and be semi-active, because it's not like I'm doing any real work, so I have time to be active on the forums. And then, like, literally one day I get an email from Thomas Mahler, who's the director of Ori, and he was like, yeah, I really like, and he picked out two really old tracks. I think they were from like a student film I'd done. And I was like, I really like this stuff. I've got a prototype of a game that I'm working on, and would you be interested in working on it? And I was like, do you have a build? And he was like, yeah. So he sent it over to me, and I knew very quickly that it was going to it had a feeling like it could be something pretty special.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, if you score the prototype for free, you can do the music for the whole game,
right?
If we're successful with our pitch. And so I did about 10 to 12 minutes for the prototype, and then they pitched it to various publishers. Microsoft ended up giving us the best deal, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I did not. I literally just put my music on a website, and it was available to listen to.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean like everyone should go and sign up for moddb.com, because it just doesn't work like that. But it's more like you just increase your percentages if your music is out there. And also if you're actually like finishing music tracks. I feel like I've spoken to a lot of composers, and I'm not getting started anymore. But it wasn't that long ago I was getting started, and I remember the biggest difference between now and like 6 or 7 years ago is now I finish tracks all the time. Like a lot of people just sit on stuff and they have the idea 452 on their computer, and idea 452 never gets finished.
No.
And really, it's just so important to finish stuff, even if it's like not your best work, because you learn so much by finishing something.
And not every track you do has to be your best work
and
ever.
then also when you finish something, you can sell it somewhere. There's many websites for selling, how can I put it, less than stellar tracks. And I sell music royalty free on Audio Jungle.
Do you? Okay.
And there's some, honestly, I would not it's not that I wouldn't be proud to play them, because they were actually a decent representation of where I was at the time, but it's like I'm not heavily advertising that I sell music there, but like for some reason people keep buying these old tracks that I do, or I just put up my experiments, and well, if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not precious about my music.
No, and you have nothing to lose either.
Right. And I'm kind of self-aware of when I've done like a track that kind of like might get a better placement, like within a boutique music library or something that. I think self-awareness is very important.
Certainly.
But if I'm just noodle around on piano and make like a melody with a decent chord sequence underneath it, you can probably put that somewhere and it'll probably sell. Yeah. As long as it's like reasonably well produced and all of that.
The thing that's amazing too is just because you don't necessarily like it as much as something else, just the way someone else hears it.
Exactly.
That could become their favorite piece of music ever.
Yep.
It's so bizarre.
Well, I don't know why there's this trend at the moment for like ukulele and whistling and long R's on like literally every single commercial. But I'm like, well, I should probably write like 4 or 5 tracks like that, because they'll probably generate
get licensed.
Exactly. And it's really not difficult to like write chord 1, 4, and 5 and get and put a glockenspiel over it, and then like a couple of other nice sounds. So that to me is like the most boring thing ever, but apparently to advertising agencies it's like the magic flute or whatever. It's so anyone who is getting started, I feel like 1, put your music out there, and 2, don't get too proud over it, because like you said, you never know who's listening, and someone might hear it in a different way to you.
And I don't think you ever should be too precious about it either. I think there are certain projects that you can be precious about.
Yeah. I was precious about Ori. Like I see one bad review of Ori and I think that person's an idiot.
Yeah. I get that.
But it happens. You can't please everyone.
No, you can't. You never ever will.
Even if they're wrong.
Well, they usually are. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We're obviously right all the time. But it's... I don't know. I think be precious about the ones you're really passionate about.
Yep.
And anything else, honestly, who cares?
Right. I mean, you still have to do your best work, like wherever possible. But it's like, there is a difference. There is a fundamental difference between doing music. I've done a lot of movie trailers.
Yeah.
But I don't do the big blockbuster ones. There's like a whole level underneath the very top level of the industry. Like, there's just a lot of movies that need trailers.
Yeah.
And, it can often just be like a percussion thing.
Yeah. I've done a lot of sound design for that kind of stuff.
That's all they need. But like, when you've done 275 of those, as I think that's what I'm up to now.
Yeah.
It's like, are you really going to do an announcement on Facebook, like, again, for like the 275th trailer? Probably not.
No. And the thing is, too, I mean, they're all so formulaic.
Yes.
I mean, there are a few genres I've seen, assuming we're calling trailers a genre, that formulaically are so specific beyond pop music.
You have your billboard at the beginning, you have the soft opening and middle,
3 acts,
and then 3-act trailer.
2.5 minutes.
2.5. Yep. Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing,
and it works. It works really well. But it is. I've done library music, and it's like, oh, this is gonna be such a drag because I have to follow the same structure, and it's the library music gigs that I get where it's like, okay, we don't want you to follow the usual structure. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank goodness I get to do do something different. It just makes it a little bit easier. But usually it's that structure you just described. And that stuff pays the bills, but like it's tough to. I guess once you've written enough of those, it's almost impossible to get precious about them anyway.
Right, or to even be excited about them. Yeah. It's just, it's work.
Yeah.
And if one of them lands, then that's a nice surprise.
Yeah.
But
that's part of being in this business. Like you've kind of, I don't think there's any composer working at the moment other than like the very top ones who are not dabbling in multiple areas. I mean, Hans Zimmer doesn't need to work in television or library music, but he has avenues everywhere.
That is an empire onto its own, too.
But now I'm not saying like every composer needs to build an empire, but like every composer should be looking to have as many income streams as possible. When I
musician, not just composer,
exactly. But when I hear people say there's not enough opportunities for musicians, or especially composers, I don't really know about much as live musicians because that's a tricky one. But when I hear there's not enough gigs for composers, I'm like, that's nonsense. There is so much stuff out there. It's just not where you might conventionally be looking.
No, well, it's just also the democratization of it. That now you, like you said, you got this first big game because you put it on you put old music on an internet site.
Yep.
That is something that wouldn't exist 10 years ago.
That is very true.
The game, like, no pun intended, like the playing field has violently changed.
Yep. And you'll get a lot of games with composers who you've never heard of, and they're actually all doing really good stuff.
Sure.
Whereas before, I would guess there were gatekeepers, and you have to make friends with the gatekeepers, and that's kind of still how it is at the studio level in films.
Yeah.
Like, you're not talking to anyone at the top level if you don't have an agent.
Right.
Because they just won't take you seriously.
Yeah.
But games, it's kind of a free-for-all, because the game industry lives online.
Right.
On Ori, I didn't meet any of the team until launch day.
Yeah, I believe that.
Which was surreal. Even the sound designer who was mixing my score into his work, never met him. Didn't need to. We had a great relationship.
Were they based here in LA?
No, based in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, go figure.
I guess I could have flown out there, but we stayed in touch on Skype, and
you're more productive in your own space too,
right? Yeah. And he did a great job. Like it was just it's the game industry has a different way of working, and it's still very freeform. Whereas film is it's especially at the studio level, it's a little bit more established, and there's protocols. But the game industry right now is where the film industry probably was in the 50s. Like Hollywood's golden era is regarded as the 60s and 70s.
Sure,
I don't think gaming has reached the golden era yet.
Right.
I think we're on the verge because this year especially, we've had so many ridiculously good games. Every year there's always good games, but this year in particular has been a banner year for games.
Do you play?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been playing since I was 4.
Okay.
So it's the medium I feel like I understand the best.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
The issue nowadays is just time.
That's
just games are a major time commitment. So if nothing else, I make sure to play my own games, especially while I'm working on them, because then I have a great understanding of the narrative, especially.
Yeah.
And that's actually something. Like on Ori and the Blind Forest, I put hundreds of hours in because of what we mentioned earlier, like all of the transitions. If we're going to do that it needs to work.
No, you have to understand.
I have to make sure that they work. But also, there's kind of like a flow thing as well. Like I've always thought that composers would make good editors, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And John Ottman, who did The Usual Suspects, actually is a composer and editor. He did both roles on the film, and I think he also did both roles on one of the Superman movies. I think Superman Returns.
Okay.
He editor and composer.
Right.
But I've always thought the two go hand in hand, because a lot of times, yes, you're dealing with structure and you've got to choose the right shots, but also like flow and pacing in editing is very, very similar to flow and pacing in music. And it's not just... See, on Ori, it's not just about like having the right music for the right environment for like 10 minutes. It's the overall feel of the game, like from minute 1 to like the 10th hour. It takes most people 10 hours to finish Ori.
Okay.
Like, how does it feel like from the beginning to start?
Right,
like, where are the peaks and where are the valleys?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to test that. But you're doing it in a film. You're going to sit down with the director and you're going to watch version 1 and he's going to trash most of it. And then you're going to go and do version 2 and you're going to watch it with the director again.
Right.
That's not really a thing so much in games, and I feel like it should be, especially in games which are billing themselves as narrative games. But what normally happens is the composer writes a bunch of cues and then hands it off to the audio team, where they cut and splice up the music. And it might get implemented really well, and it usually does if it's a really strong audio team, but the audio team doesn't necessarily have the same vision as the composer all the time. That's like, so it's kind of a different... It's kind of a different mindset. But whereas like in film, like, can you imagine like John Williams handing his music off and like it being spliced up? The only times when that's happening is when there are late edit changes. Right. Otherwise, no one's changing that.
That said, with a film, say you go watch the film with the director, it's a 90-minute time commitment.
Right.
With Ori, a 10-hour commitment.
Yeah, you can't do
that. That is a short commitment for most games.
Yeah, you can't do the whole thing in one go. At least not with the director of the game. But you can definitely do it in chunks.
Sure.
And I think even though it's and a game like Ori is short, a game like The Witcher 3, which takes 200 hours, like of course you're not going to be able to do it. But then you'd have to be able to do the key moments, like. Right. My ultimate goal is like I would love to be able to do like all the key moments and sit down with the director and make sure that everything's okay. But it's just not possible physically unless you have like I guess a team of game testers working for you. The problem, and that brings me on to like game testing itself, is like when we hand the game off to be tested by QA.
Yep.
They're looking for bugs. They're looking for things that break the game.
Right.
They're not looking for the emotional flow of the music for the game. So it's so whose responsibility is that? Because it is someone's.
It's yours.
It's mine.
Yeah. But that's the only person who's really looking out for that.
But that's not in the job description. Usually the job description is just deliver the music for level A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, but there are plenty of jobs that entail more than what's in the description.
I think I agree with you, but like in games, like it's not the set mindset yet. It hasn't gotten there yet.
And that's what's interesting about games, especially compared to film. Because games are dynamic just by nature, where a film is linear. That's not going to shift. So a film dictates in a way, or I mean, it gives you also the music ultimately I think has the potential to be immediate's not the right word. More moving immediately, I suppose, because the picture isn't changing. That's going to stay the same. Whereas in a game, your actions are going to vary every time you play that game. And that presents a different set of challenges as well as benefits to being the game composer.
Yep.
So I think people aren't going to look at it, I think, in the same way. Certainly like you're saying for now. I've seen some games like Last of Us that was very cinematic.
Yep.
I actually liked watching it more than actually playing it. Playing it, I got bored as hell. But watching the
gameplay in Last of Us is non-existent.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be because everything else is executed to perfection.
Yeah, it's just like you run here, then you walk there.
And it's basically an interactive movie.
Yeah.
But I think there are points in games where you can play that up. Like, I mean, Ori's fundamentally a platformer.
Right.
But there are several moments in the game where there's a strong cinematic element. And what we're doing during the gameplay moments, I'll give an example, where we don't really do combat music in Ori.
Okay.
Which sounds counterintuitive, but like the only time there is up-tempo combat music is when you have to defeat something. And the only time you have to defeat something in the game is like 6 times, maybe 7. Like it's a handful of times. But I mean, and we tested this. I did a talk on this at the Game Developers Conference, and I showed a video of like what would happen if we had interactive music where it switched from like softer background music to combat music every time you're in combat.
Yeah.
You're in and out of combat so quickly, it just sounds like a gimmick, and it reminds you that you're playing a video game, which sucks for immersion. See, what The Last of Us gets right is you forget that you're playing a video game. And coming back to the blink thing, on Ori, you forget that you're playing a video game. Mm-hmm. And that, I feel like, especially in a narrative game, is my goal as a composer is to do absolutely nothing that reminds you you're playing a video game.
Yeah.
I want the music to feel part of the world you're in. Yes. And my job is to deliver the emotion that, in this case, that Ori is feeling, not what you might be feeling. I want the player to be in the shoes of Ori and like, what soundtrack might Ori hear in his head right now if music were to play at this moment? And that's where the cinematic element I feel is important, because that's also what we're experiencing when we're watching a film. Yeah. Most games with music have like the typical gameplay music where it's like when you're not fighting, it's ambient, and when you're fighting, it's battle, and that works for a lot of games, but doesn't work for every game. Sure. We found when we switched it up to combat music, it just sounded gimmicky and annoying. Yeah. I mean, another example, and this was a battle between me and Microsoft. They were like, we need the pickup sounds to be more like Zelda. Now, the pickups are like when you get like a thing that increases your health or like increases your energy, like a power up, whatever. And what they wanted was, you have a new health thing. Yeah, sure. And I was like, really? Have you seen the aesthetic of this game? It is not the game. Yeah. Have you heard the music? It's not that at all. Like what we were actually using was like a really soft, like woodwind. I call it a stinger, but it's not really a stinger. It's just like an identifier that you pick something up, but it's more fitting. Okay. The bug came in, like, and we have this like bug tracking software on all of our machines. Yeah. And it came in from Microsoft, and I would just write in response, no, I'm not changing this. And they would get sent back, and then like 3 days later, it would just come back. Have you not? And a new bug would be made. I'm like, nah, not changing it. Yeah. And they just gave up after like 9 times. And I was right. But like, it's just funny because Zelda does, like, anyone who played Zelda in the 90s, that sound worked because we didn't have like advanced orchestral sounds back then.
No,
like,
the music was a lot campier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it totally, and it worked for that time. But I'm like, we don't need to like hit the player. The player knows they've got a power up. They just walked into a big glowing blue orb. Yeah. Like, do you think they don't?
I would even use sound design for that as opposed to a melodic sequence.
We used, I think we used it's like a really short. It's not even a melodic sequence. It's like 2 seconds of like 2 notes on the flute with a long reverb and delay on it. It's incredibly simple, and then there's like a shimmery effect when you walk into the orbit. And the other thing is like there's a little animation when Ori picks it up, and like between all of those cues, the player gets it. But it's just funny because like if we'd done the digga-da-dun thing, takes you out of the game, reminds you you're playing a game.
Totally.
Yeah. Can you imagine The Last of Us? You defeat an enemy, and it's like, you defeated the enemy. It's not working. Right. That's bad. It's
like your daughter dies in your arms, and
right, exactly. And I think the game industry is like learning a lot more from the film industry about how to tell a story. We're not there yet. It's still a really young industry, but we are getting much better at telling like proper stories now, not as opposed to gaming trope stories. Right. So, and I think that's why I feel like we're not quite at the golden era yet, because once we have better stories in games, then we'll really like, it's not that the stories are bad. It's just that, often it feels like, save the princess and collect the items to win the thing. Sure. Whereas, TV and film and literature have usually much deeper stories. And it's partly because of the linear nature
of course.
And games, the open-ended nature of games makes it trickier to do that. But The Witcher 3 proved last year that you can have very mature stories, and they just did it. They just did very high quality stories as quests within the game.
Okay.
Now the overarching story maybe is a little bit video gamey and tropey, but like you don't notice it because you feel like you're living in a real world. I don't know if you played The Witcher 3. You probably didn't have time for the 200 hours to.
No,
I had a gap in my schedule last year.
I'm actually not a big gamer.
Okay.
I have a PS4 that I bought last year's at Black Friday, and it's been turned on about 4 times total. I have an Xbox 360 that I bought when I first moved to LA, and that's been turned on 10 times total. And it's like if I have friends who do a game or something, then I'll buy their game, and so I can.
Of course,
I mean, usually when they're good about it, they'll just give me the score, and then I can. But I also want to see, just as like a fan of them too, because I'm a fan of my friends. I want to see their music in action, so that's when I'll buy a game, and I'll play through it. But like when it's like Call of Duty or something like that, I mean, I'm not a Call of Duty fanatic, and I go out into multiplayer, and in 3 seconds I'm dead, and then I do it again, 2 seconds I'm dead.
Don't worry, I don't play multiplayer either because it's just not fun. Unless you're like really. The only game I think I play in multiplayer is Rocket League, which I don't know if you've heard of that game, but Rocket League.
I've played it.
Because that game is one of those. They made it easy for someone, even if you suck at games, you can kind of get lucky.
I played it with Deadmau5, and he made fun of me the entire time because he does not.
Deadmau5's a big gamer though. So
he's really good at Rocket League, and the entire time he was just chastising me for how much I sucked.
That's hilarious,
dude. I know.
But yeah, like the Witcher 3, it does prove, like I think for me it's one of the first real cases where like you can have a very mature story within a game. And they basically have very amazing linear stories within a non-linear world.
Okay.
And that's what makes it special. Like the quality of the writing, especially given it's made by a Polish studio. The quality of the English writing is extraordinary. And there's one quest in particular. It's called the Bloody Baron. It's basically a domestic abuse story, and you have to uncover the origins of it, basically. And it was generally regarded as like one of the best story moments in gaming history.
That's a very light moment for a game.
Right. Yeah. Right. Considering the amount of killing that you're doing, it was more like of a real world story.
Yeah,
it's just the fact, in a world where there's all these crazy monsters and all this magic and everything. It's like, oh, here's something that deals with reality. Right. Your reality as opposed to the game's reality, or something that you can maybe more easily relate to. Yeah. And then, you can go back into the fantasy world whenever you want. Right. But it was just cool that, first of all, it was just cool that someone even attempted that and it didn't completely suck. Right. Because often, there's been this thing in games recently where we've got to show LBGT relationships. Sure. And most of the attempts have been pretty bad. A few of them have been pretty good, but some of them can come off as a bit cringy.
I mean, it's only even now that we're actually getting TV and movies that it isn't cringy. It actually feels legitimate. It actually works.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shows that are handling that really well now, and it's like...
But that's new. In like the past 2 years, I would say that's new. I mean, you look at like, I don't know, what's Big Bang Theory or one of those, and it's campy, it's very sitcom-y. It's not realistic.
I think games will get there, but it's been for a long time a very male-dominated industry, and they've made games for themselves, and now the diversity finally in the people who are making games, people who are playing games, it's like almost a 50-50 split now.
I'm sure of it.
So many women playing games, it's nuts. But the people making them, we're still like on the path to getting better, but it's still mostly men. Yeah. I mean, Moon Studios, who make Ori, and we're working on the second game right now. We had a team retreat in Spain. Yeah. 33 men, 2 women. Oh man. And it's not like it's not the studio is distributed. It's not like we have to fill a diversity quota. I mean, Moon will say that they're looking for the best talent on the team,
whoever that is,
and whoever that is. But I think it's partly like there just aren't enough women applying and doing this work.
I think
anyway.
that's changing.
Yes, it is definitely changing.
I think
it might be
in the next 10 years,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
going to be a lot even,
Yep.
or a lot more even.
Yep.
But I think it's also now that kids grew up with iPhones,
right.
Kids and women in particular.
Yes,
Like, I'm born in the 80s.
Right.
And for the most part, girls were not encouraged really to get the Game Boy or play with the
image
computer.
of the gaming kid is a lot different now. Well, there is no image of the gaming kid because everyone's doing it.
I guess it's just gamer. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter anymore. Whereas, when how old are you?
I'm 31.
Right. Okay. So I'm 33. So
Yeah.
when we were growing up, the image of the gamer is the spotty,
Totally, like nerdy kid with glasses.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's I would say it's pretty much gone now. There's still traces of it, but like you go to a convention like PAX or E3 and like
Sure.
like the array of faces is like it's incredible.
I'm sure of it.
I remember when I went to PAX in Seattle, I was on a panel with 3 other composers and we had a signing session and just like all of these different people, like from all kinds of walks of life, like playing Ori or playing the composers next to me, their game. And I was like, wow, I didn't know the community was this demographic basically.
Right.
Really, because, if you're working in games, you don't get to meet.
And you're staying in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So this is like the one time you get to really interact with fans. You can do it on Twitch and you can do it on Twitter, but like this, face to face,
that's not real. Yeah,
face to face, it's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, of course.
Those people are fanatical. I could not imagine like people waiting in line for 2 hours to get a signature for a composer, for a game composer. But like,
I'll argue this. I would say hardcore gamers spend far more hours playing the game than hardcore music listeners listen to their favorite band.
That is very true. I worked on a game called Ark Survival Evolved this year.
Yeah.
Big epic game, dinosaurs.
Yeah, I saw the robot dinosaur or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people have put 3,500 hours into that game. So they've heard my main theme like every time they've started it up.
I mean, that's ingrained.
They're probably sick of it by now, but
think about this. That theme is now basically ingrained in them for the rest of their life.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yep.
I mean, you command a giant power over these people.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we just released an expansion for it today, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to do a variant of the main theme because that's what everyone's expecting. If I don't do it, I'll probably get shot down. And also, if I do it, people probably love it. So I'm afraid I'm going to go for the low hanging fruit here, but
it's an expansion,
right? Exactly. Yeah. This was kind of like a sci-fi twist on the world, so I got the synths out. Basically, it was the core game, full orchestra.
Yeah,
we had 93 players at Abbey Road, which was which was unbelievable.
I'm sure.
But this one we did record at Abbey Road, but like it was kind of like the orchestra was the pre-record this time, and then I built the track around the orchestra recording. An unusual way to do it, but that's what happens when you win the developer's trust.
Sure.
And so I got to do the sci-fi thing this time, so we did a sci-fi twist on the theme. But yeah, like 3,500 hours is like nuts, and that's probably not even the record. Like I could probably find out like what the highest number of hours is on it, but like it's the same with Minecraft.
People are. I was going to ask you about that one because that's another. I didn't know. Again, actually, to bring him because we spoke about. I didn't know anything about Minecraft until like Deadmau5 started posting about it, and then that became a thing.
Yes.
And then I found that you composed music for Minecraft, and that was one of those. What the fuck is this behemoth of? And I mean, I know about like the guy who lives in the Hollywood Hills and some like ridiculous mansion, and he created Minecraft. But I mean, it's like,
well, he doesn't work on it anymore. So he he created Minecraft. He built it up over 5, 6, 7, 8 years, however long it was. And then it had gotten so big because they started out on PC. They started out on ModDB.
Really?
I believe. Well, I don't know if they started out on ModDB, but it was available on ModDB from very early on. They had a lot of traffic there.
Right.
Anyway, he built it up. Then they released on PC. Then they had a console edition, and then I think they started releasing for the mobile devices like the PSP, and I don't know if it's on Nintendo DS, but like it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna pontificate on why he sold it, but it may have been too much to manage.
Yeah.
And
probably someone offered him a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, Microsoft offered him a ridiculous amount.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And you can put two and two together now because Microsoft published Ori.
Right.
And 2 months after Ori came out,
they had you on Minecraft.
Yes.
Now it. Okay.
So also from that initial email on ModDB,
yeah.
I got to work on Minecraft. If you put the chain back together, because that me responding to that email or me making that profile led to Ori, which led to Minecraft, which has led to Ori 2 as well.
Right.
Like it's and honestly, just that path alone will hopefully be enough, as long as I don't suck on my next gigs, to sustain me for at least 5 or 10 years. So assuming the gigs keep coming in, because Minecraft has me do about 3 hours of music a year. Okay.
That's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. We just wrapped up another little expansion. So anyway, the music for Minecraft, I did not do the original music for Minecraft. That was done by Daniel Rosenfeld, another Swede who Notch, the creator. They work together. So I do not have like the legacy. No one in the Minecraft world really knows who I am. They know a little bit more right now just because of the volume of music that I've put out.
Right.
When Microsoft hired me, I was like, so do you want me to sound like Daniel? Because my stuff's a little bit different. And they were like, no, just be yourself. I'm like, okay, thank you. Cool. So the kind of stuff that we've done, Minecraft has been doing these mythologies, and what they do is they reskin the base game in a different historical style. So the first one they did was Greek mythology. So all of the blocks in the game, it's kind of like virtual Lego, as I'm sure you figured out. All the blocks in the game are Greek themed,
right?
And you pay it's like $5 to for the new look, new music, for a reskin of the game. New look, new music, all that. Then we did Chinese mythology, right? And we got another one. Hasn't been announced yet, so I can't tell you what it is. But it's another one coming out very, very soon, and they appear to be loved and very successful. So we'll keep
it's the same game, just with a new skin.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only other stuff I've done, they have a couple of mini games. They have a battle mode in Minecraft where you're just literally swinging your sword and running around cool levels.
Okay.
There's a glide mode which. They introduced a new flying mechanic in the game, so you can fly around like the world, and they set up races that come through all of these really cool designed levels. So they needed flying music, like an hour of flying music. So they got all of these like different game modes, and they all need custom music, and that's where yours truly gets involved.
Sure.
I'm like honored to be involved in something that like reaches so many people.
Yeah, it's massive,
and it's kind of a relief that I'm not asked to sound like the original guy,
right?
So I'm merely just adding on to what has come before. So but it's funny, like compared to him, like I mean, he has like 250,000 followers on Twitter. It's just like, I mean, He'll only be associated with Minecraft for his whole life. Even if he does something else really brilliant, he'll always be the Minecraft guy.
Yeah.
Because he has been the soundtrack to 100 million kids, basically.
Yeah.
It's. I think Minecraft sales are up to 130 million now.
That's unbelievable.
No wonder Microsoft bought it.
Yeah, I can't fathom that. That's absolutely unreal. Would you ever see yourself reaching out into film, or you think you want to stay in games?
So I went to USC, and obviously I met a lot of film directors.
Sure.
But no one's giving a 25-year-old a bunch of money to make a film. So I have a lot of friends, and they've given me a lot of great like commercials to do, which is super awesome. And I'm hoping, like, they're now at the age where one, they've made some stuff.
Yep.
And they can show that stuff to agencies or whatever.
Yep.
And they're either looking for scripts or they're penning scripts themselves, and they're kind of looking for, not the huge investment, because no one's giving you like $50 million, but it's more like, can I get enough to like make my first movie and have a go?
Right.
So yes is the answer to that question. And maybe my agent will throw me into something, but like the gaming world is treating me very well right now.
Right.
So I'm not actively pursuing film work.
Sure.
It's either if like the directors I know give me film work, then of course I will do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not like reaching out to make new connections because I just don't. I've got enough connections in the game world where you have to maintain as well.
You're good. Yeah. Totally.
But don't get me wrong. Like I've got one friend in particular. I think she's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
But someone needs to like put the faith into her and like make and have her make her first thing. And I think like, I mean, she told me she wanted to be the female Michael Bay.
Okay.
Like that's because it's very flashy and over the top, like kind of style. And like that kind of matches her.
Yeah.
And she can do a lot with a little. But I think just getting people to trust you and like invest in you it's partially an age thing.
Yeah.
I found things were a lot easier as soon as I turned 30. I think it's partly life experience as well, but like
you change too as a person.
You do change. Yeah. You know how to you know how to talk to people, you know how to not piss people off.
Or you just care less when you do.
That might be a part of it too. You're like, oh well that didn't work. Well, there's probably someone else who'll You start to learn what matters.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the case with her. So yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd love to work in film. Really, for me, it's about is there a good story to tell?
Right.
Like, will I be given the opportunity to tell a story with my music? So with Ori and the Blind Forest, there's no dialogue.
Right.
It's me and some sound effects. There is like mock speech in the game, but there's so little dialogue. It's like
it's all under your control.
But if I fail at my job, of course, then
the game fails.
The game fails, and also like they're going to be like, "What the hell, Gareth? Like we need music to tell the story here," and it doesn't. So there's the pressure that goes along with it too. But like. I remember the opening of WALL-E. It's like 40 minutes with no dialogue.
It's one of my favorite moments of film.
What a gift for the composer, but also what an intimidating thing because it's the animation and you basically and the sound.
He's also my favorite composer, so I love.
It's a great choice.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it's WALL-E. WALL-E should have won the Oscar that year for best music. And I think it went to something else that I was not happy with.
I'm very rarely happy with the choices they make.
I mean. That's a whole nother rant, which I'm not going to go into.
Yeah,
because I've done the awards scene in games, and it is entertaining.
Well, it's not just any award show. There, regardless of genre, industry, there are politics involved.
Yep.
It is very much people celebrating themselves.
Yep.
And I don't think that'll ever change because the people who put up money also want to get rewarded for it.
Yep. Yeah, I think I remember someone telling me, it's like, you know what, Gareth? The only person who cares about the award is you. Because I mean, yes, other people do, but like, no one will care more about the award than you.
Yeah.
I did the awards circuit, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, this was interesting. An interesting experience.
It's a little deflating after you've been around it.
I think my attitude now is like, if I'm getting nominated, then that's like the part that's like totally awesome because because I think at least some thought goes into that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's like, well, I'm going to have a good night.
Yeah.
Because there's probably going to be free alcohol somewhere.
Indeed.
And there's probably going to be free food somewhere.
Indeed.
There was a really good one in Vegas that I went to in 2016. Now, that was really fun. My attitude is just to have a good time. And like anything else is a bonus because I got kind of into it for like my first couple of shows and I was like, man, this is just not worth it.
Well, you want the validation.
Yeah, of course.
That,
but I'm like, I got the validation because it's all over YouTube and Twitter and Twitch.
And you're there.
Right.
Just by being there, you're part of the party.
Right. It was fun doing that the first time. I do think WALL-E should have won that year. Tom Newman still hasn't won an Oscar.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Shawshank Redemption, he lost out to Lion King.
Yep.
Which I would say fair enough in that case. I think the big one is American Beauty losing out to the Red Violin.
I can't believe that because that score is so iconic. Yeah. And it's not my favorite score of his, but that is...
What is your favorite score of his?
Road to Perdition.
Okay, that's a good choice.
Yeah, that's my favorite. But I mean, I almost feel bad that in a way that, you know, he did American Beauty, because then he was kind of tainted by that for the rest of his career.
Well,
where
he's
everyone
still-
needed marimbas.
Yep, everyone needs
You know?
marimbas and slightly compressed piano with a nice reverb.
Yeah.
Well, he certainly had a great career because of it. Because
Oh, totally.
Hey, we just need that thing you did in American Beauty on our new film.
But that's also got to be incredibly boring.
It probably is. I'm sure he loved doing Wall-E because it was like, oh, finally I get to stretch my legs.
Totally.
Yeah, and he got to jump on a two Bond films.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember seeing a post somewhere on a forum. It's like, look, yeah, Tom Newman may have won an Oscar, but he's doing just fine.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's past the age of caring, too,
Yes.
at this point.
Although he doesn't look like, he looks incredibly young, and he probably has, other than Brian Tyler, he probably has the best hair in composing. His hair is incredible. I mean, the dude's 60.
Yeah, I know.
And he does not look 60. That's like completely off topic, but yeah,
That's amazing.
I have a couple of female composer friends who have a big crush on him. I would say his animation scores, like Finding Nemo and Wall-E, are probably like a couple of my favorites. But I mean, it is amazing that he hasn't like won an Oscar yet. I think there's one other composer who hasn't won an Oscar yet that's also like had a ton of nominations. I can't remember who it is.
Isn't it? I was thinking, who is as an actor? Might be DiCaprio.
Yeah, DiCaprio finally won.
He finally got it
for the Revenant.
That's right.
But he should have won it for Wolf of Wall Street.
Right. Okay. Yeah, he was one. It was like 13 nominations or something, and Tom Newman's at like 12 or 13 or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, wrap it up. What's next for you?
So I've just wrapped up like literally 3 projects. This latest Minecraft thing. I finished a VR title and this Ark Survival Evolved expansion.
Right.
So next year is going to be mostly Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. We announced that in June. I was lucky enough to perform piano live at E3. Yeah. From what I gather, that was in front of 12 million people. So that was a surreal moment. But we've kind of got to deliver. Well, on the first game, we were the invisible studio that no one knew about, and was like, well, no one knew if the game was going to be good, and it turned out to be quite good. And now we're not the invisible studio, and we've got to deal with the expectation. We've got to somehow do a better and bigger game than the first one. So we've still got a fair amount of time on that, but it's starting to ramp up now. So that's going to be the bulk of my focus for next year. So it's kind of nice to dive back into that world. But I remember the one of the main briefs from the director, Thomas, who's like, you did a great main theme for the first one. Now we need another one. Yeah. As if these things grow on trees. Yeah, of course. I would love it if they did. Because we have a second key character in the game. Okay. I've really made heavy use of just one theme in the game, because it is Ori and the Blind Forest. It's literally one character. It is primarily one character.
Now you need to.
This we have an additional main character, and so we need to find that second theme. I think we got it, and I think it combines with the first theme as well, so I can play the two at the same time. Right. But the answers will reveal themselves hopefully over the next hopefully over the coming year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gareth Coker. His music's available pretty much everywhere online, and if you're a gamer, you've almost certainly played to some of it before. So give it a look. And while you're looking, go check out my new EP, Bleed Together, also available everywhere. See you next week.